When we get to the thoracic and abdominal pelvic membranes, parietal and visceral, you're going to use that word over and over and over again. It deals with all kinds of membranes. So there's double-layered membranes. Parietal is going to attach to one of those cavities that we talked about. It's going to be on the outside. The visceral is going to actually cover the organ. So when we start looking at the heart, because I think you've heard about that probably the most, like the sac that covers the heart. Do you know that your heart sits in a sac? Okay. So that sac is made by these pericardial membranes. The parietal pericardium is that outer sac. So it sits on the outside, it lines the cavity of the heart. And then the visceral pericardium is actually a lining that's right on the heart. So when we dissect the heart itself, the sac has been removed from it, and there's just that visceral pericardium that's left. It's the lining that's actually on the heart. So if I'm looking at an organ, my heart will have that visceral pericardium. It is surrounded by fluid, and then the parietal pericardium sits outside of that. Typically, there's fluid in between these two layers to prevent friction. Otherwise, stuff would rub together, and that would not be a good thing. So most of your organs are going to have the parietal outside that lines the cavity, a fluid, and then the visceral lining. So if I'm looking at, here again, the chest cavity, pleural deals with lungs. So I'm going to have a parietal pleural membrane, and then I'm going to have visceral pleura that actually covers or attaches to the lungs. So when you hear of people that have fluid on the lungs or fluid on their heart, the fluid that they have is that fluid in between those two layers. Peritoneal deals with your abdominal pelvic cavity. So peritoneal membranes are going to be, parietal is going to line the lining of, or the wall of your intestines. Visceral is actually going to be the ones that attach to your stomach, your small intestines, your pancreas, whichever organ we're looking at. So first diagram, probably I like the second diagram better. But here we're looking at the chest. So we've taken a cut through the chest and we're looking down at it. So we're now looking down. Here are my lungs. Here is my heart. So I can see this cavity space where that fluid is going to be found. So if this is my lung, this will be my visceral pleural, because it's lungs, lining or membrane. This is going to be my parietal, because it's on the outside, which it actually labels it over here. So visceral is going to attach to my lungs, and parietal is going to line the cavity outside of my lungs. Exact same thing with my heart. Here's my heart. Visceral attaches to it. You're going to have fluid around your heart, and then you're going to have the parietal pericardium lines the outside. Here, we're looking down into the digestive system now. So I have cut across the liver, the stomach, part of your intestines, the spleen. So you're going to have the same thing. Here I'm looking at the liver. So visceral peritoneum deals with any type of digestive organ. So it's going to line the liver. The liver is going to have a covering. There's going to be the cavity filled with fluid. And then you're going to have your parietal peritoneum. So you can see how those work. Your do notice, sorry, your small intestine is going to have a lining, and there's fluid that sits in there also. Your intestines are going to have a visceral lining. All of your digestive organs are going to have that lining. Okay, so if we start looking at the main body systems, integumentary, have you heard that word before? Integumentary deals pretty much with skin. So integumentary system, skin, hair, nails, sweat glands sometimes fit in here also. Its main job is to protect, regulate temperature, sensory receptors. So integumentary system deals with skin, hair, nails for the first part. What we're getting into now is what we'll cover more later. We'll spend an entire unit on the integumentary system. We will spend an entire unit on the skeletal system, made up of bones, ligaments. It protects, it gives structure. So these are the jobs. Make sure you read through all of these. But these are the jobs of your skeletal system. Stores calcium, which is inorganic, and other minerals and salts. Muscular system deals with muscles, provides movement, heat. We talked about that a little bit the other day. Nervous system, common one, brain, spinal cord, nerves. It sounds simple. The nervous system is probably the hardest one to study.